Hello, namaste. How are you all today? In my practice tree video, I asked all of you to practice frill on circles as well as on straight lines and then see what challenge do you face. Because drawing frills on the circle and on straight lines are two different things. Many times it happens that beginners can draw beautiful frills on straight lines, but they face difficulties when they try to draw frills on circle, and many times they messed up with their designs. In today's video, I will explain the challenge they face while attempting frills on circle. Actually, what happens that when we draw frills on circle, we forget that in circle we have circumference for base of the petal and circumference for height of the petal. And there is a difference between both of them. Means base is narrow, smaller compared to height. And that's why whenever we draw petal, it should be narrow from base and broad from outer side. Actually, we do remember this fact whenever we draw big petals, and that's why we keep it narrow towards base and broad towards height. But it turned out that we forget this tiny detail when we draw small petals like the one in frill flowers. In frill flowers, I have seen that many beginners draw petals those are equally broad on both sides, and that's why something like this happens. Actually, I'm trying to draw like beginners, but it seems challenging to me due to my practice. Okay, but something like this. So, when they have frill petals equally broad in the end, they don't have any space near base, but they have wide gap near height. And that's why in the end their frill flower looks little messy. Same frill we draw on straight line, we don't face such problem because the length near base and outer side is equal. That's why it's very little trick that we have to remember constantly that whenever we draw frill flowers, its petal should be narrow near base and little broad near height. And the difference in size is so tiny, many times we don't even realize, but final finishing shows it clearly. To overcome this problem, I share one small trick to all of you, that draw your guidelines in 4 directions on base and draw frill following this guideline while constantly reminding ourselves that petal should be narrow near base and little broad towards outside. Well, once these things comes in constant practice, then you don't need those guidelines. Look how beautiful and perfect our frill flower looks. This is what I was talking about in my practice tree video. But I wanted all of you to find out the mistake if you are facing, because it's golden mantra that if you know where you are going wrong, then only you can correct yourself and improve very fast. In today's practice, we will use these frill flowers so we can have enough practice with this element. With that, today we are taking one big shape too. It's very simple leaf shape that I used in my last demonstration video. Look, you all can see that my leaf did not turn out perfect and its base is little pointy from one side. Actually, this happened with many people, and that's why I'm showing you why this is actually happened. When we draw this shape, one side comes out perfectly, but when we try to draw another side, then we messed up. To correct that, what we can do, we can draw one reference line, and then on both sides of this reference line we can draw perfect shape to get perfect leaf. Usually what happens that we start drawing leaf and then we cross center point, and because of wrong direction we cannot continue drawing entire shape. And that's why we start from top again and then messed up. It's really very good if you can draw entire shape in one stroke. For that you need lots of practice. Until you achieve that perfection, you can use reference lines to draw perfect shapes. Because we want to practice our leaf shape, that's why we are including it into our today's practice. We will practice our frill elements on this leaf shape too. Because as I said, frill is very important element that we can use everywhere, and that's why we should practice it on all type of shapes. Like in this leaf shape, first it will go straight, then it will turn on round. So we have to balance how will we draw frills on these shapes, maintaining the perfection between petals. We will take very simple swirl with dot as filler elements for this leaf. One more time I am repeating myself that here speed is not at all important because we are practicing right now, and for practicing our motive should be neat and clean work. For that, if we have to keep very slow speed, that would be perfectly alright. We practice to give training to our hand for that particular element. And each and every element should be drawn perfectly and symmetrically. And that's why please don't rush with your practice. Try to draw all swirls exactly same size. Sometimes it happens that when we draw single element, it looks beautiful. But same element when we use in cluster, they don't turn out that beautifully. So it's important that we should learn how to cluster them and how to layer them with other elements. They should look like one entire family, not as a stranger tourist traveling in their own direction. Your elements should look like this, perfect and beautiful. And for that, if you have to slow down your speed and practice them multiple times, then do it. Just don't stop with one practice. Actually, keep practicing same and same thing again and again till you can draw it with perfection. Now we will draw frill on top of this shape. If anyone wants to know what type of paper I am using for my practice, then it's normal A4 size paper. But if you check description box of this video, you will find link of the video that explain what other materials you can use to practice your mehendi. Actually, you will find many other important video link about how I make my henna paste, cones, how to hold cones, etc. etc. Now this particular shape, if you want, can fill it with frills or draw tiny leaf shape. Choice is yours. Now on top of this we will make our dot leaf, and then we will use Gulf style petal that we learned last time for our Gulf flower. I am using them here because I want to show you that same elements you can use differently to get completely different look. As I have told you that I might use same and same elements, but will share many variations of those elements, so you get better idea about those elements. And that's why I am using Gulf petals here on top of this leaf shape. But remember one thing, whenever you draw such bold elements, try to clean your cone tip constantly, because if your cone tip is messy, that could create mess in your designs too. Like if your tip has a henna all around and you try to draw something, those henna can spoil your delicate elements. And to clean your henna tip, you can either use tissue or napkins, and always keep them handy and develop habit of constantly cleaning the cone tip. It is important to draw cover lines for elements, and sometimes it's challenging because here you have base shape that you have to follow. And to get perfect cover line, you should have good control over your hand and cone. This particular shape you can use at the beginning of the design near elbow or in the palm or anywhere you feel like using it. This leaf shape is actually very versatile shape and can be used at many places. So practice it hard. In our last practice, we learned about teardrop cluster. If you want, you can practice them here. Try to practice as many elements as you can because our main motive behind all these videos are practicing. So practice hard, and whenever you practice, don't fear of experimenting new elements or layout. Because if something not look good, it's okay. You will learn something new from your mistakes. All mistakes actually teach us something. Practice sessions should be experimental. So when we actually attempt them on a real assignments, we have better idea how to use those elements. And that's why whenever you practice, don't afraid to try new elements. Even though it won't turn out right, so what? At least your practice won't go in drain. I will draw our border element from here, and whenever you practice on paper, don't turn paper because in real life we cannot turn our clients. So practice also exactly same way. Now in center of the border we will give little different design because we are practicing our frill flowers today. That's why we won't take checks today. Here I am creating dot line here because we have to practice dots too. Though dots are the easiest element, but I have seen many artists struggling to get perfect dots. If we want to take a variation, then what we can do, we can draw frill flowers on one side, and another side we can draw checks. Let's do that only. See how tiny and delicate frills I am drawing here. So along with you, I can also practice my elements. Delicate frills means entire design will look very intricate. Many artists draw big frills, the height of my 2 lines of frills, so it takes fewer times for them to finish design. Here I made 2 lines of frills. If you make only 1 line with bigger height, then your work just halved, but that won't look that intricate. All elements have their place, like in leaf we drew little taller frills compared to this one because there we were supposed to draw bold petals. So draw element according to their look you want to achieve. Now let's do checks this side. We have done simple checks, then zigzag checks. Okay, let's do 3-layer checks today. As I said in my checks tutorial video that whenever you draw checks, please drape lines, don't drag them. There is a difference between draping lines and dragging lines, and I have already explained that in my previous video. Base of checks can get spoiled if you drag lines, especially in second layer. Now drawing first layer of checks is easy, but drawing second layer is challenging because many times we cannot judge from where to start drawing lines for second layer. And without planning, if we start drawing lines for second layer, then there are high chances to mess up the checks. There is small trick to get perfect checks, and that's try to create 90-degree angles near junction of 2 layers. If you are drawing straight lines, then it's easy to get perfect 90-degree angles near junction lines. But when you draw slanted line, that time be very careful and with precautions try to draw 90-degree angles near junction. Then you will have perfect 2 layers of checks. Like here we have slanted lines. if we want 90-degree angles, then we have to first see where can we draw our first line, and after that we can just follow other lines based on that guideline. Like we can draw it here or here. Okay, see, we are getting 90-degree here, so it will become perfect square. So this is one trick to get perfect check space. Like many times we try to follow a given line and messed up the design. So be careful and watchful how you draw your lines. I hope you are getting my point that I am trying to tell you about getting perfection in checks. So what should we draw inside checks? Let's draw dotted leaves, as we have to practice that too. I don't want to use something very complicated because I have prepared this practice video for beginners, and though dot leaves are very easy element, but if not done properly, then it can spoil the entire look of our design. Many times people don't try to learn its proper technique, and that's why we have to practice here for perfection. Now our main practice element, and that is our frill flower. As I said earlier, the way practicing any element separately is important. Same way we have to practice layering that element, because sometimes separately drawn elements turn out very beautiful, but same element we find challenging when we layer them or cluster them. It should look like one entire element together. Don't leave any abrupt spacing in between, and if we do have any spacing, fill them to give underlying frills. And cluster them beautifully. Try to draw delicate and intricate frill flowers, then it will give very beautiful and intricate look to entire designs. With this frill flower, I am ending this practice session here, and I am sure you all will practice this design and all elements that I have shown today. And if possible, don't stop here. You can layer up the design with elements we learned in our past practices. You can mix match all elements and come up with something more beautiful and intricate. With this, I take your leave now till we meet again with new design or tutorial or element, anything. So till we meet again, keep practicing. Bye bye. See you everyone. Thank you. Love you. Bye bye.